Now, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kyle, with I'm sure was a very important question.
You're all right. I actually hopped onto the live earlier.
Yeah, I remember you. Yeah. You were the one. Okay. I was pretty sure that you had not talked to atheists before because the questions you were asking were kind of like new, and you were saying that this is your first time talking about us.
Man, for sure, yes.
Yes. Okay, well, I'm glad you called in because you asked some really good questions for somebody who's starting to like explore outside of like their bubble, and I really appreciate that, and that makes me very happy.
For sure, no. And to go along with that, I do have a couple atheist friends at work, but they believe in the whole stoned ape thing. So
I believe in what?
The stoned ape hypothesis. The idea that humans, the idea that our human ancestors just got high and did a bunch of mushrooms and shit, and that caused them to take more risks and things that eventually led to human evolution being what it is. And it's like, it's one of those things that's, it's like the aquatic ape shit where it's like, yeah, okay, this sounds really funny, but like, honestly, you could never go back and test this. And like, it's just something that people say, you know what I mean?
This is the Terrence McKenna stuff.
It's him or Paul Stamens or something like that, where it was like, it was some shit that somebody said on Joe Rogan.
Just for the record, just for the record, I don't have any problem with the idea that some of our ancestors did drugs and had epiphanies. I think that's happened throughout the entirety, but I don't think that is the explanation for every religious thought, or, I mean, it's probably the inspiration for some of them. We watch it happen. But anyway, Kyle, what was your question? I'm sorry for the distraction.
My question is a theistic, looking at an atheistic point of view. Why is religion more of a con than a pro?
Because it can't demonstrate that it's true.
Yeah, I talked about it a lot on the last call. I don't know how much of you heard, but just to summarize, is that it's something that is non-demonstrable, something that isn't proven to be real, that people are believing in based on faith. And faith, as Matt alluded to earlier on in the thing, faith is just the reason that you give, the excuse that you give to believe something that you don't actually have evidence for.
And so in our cause, believing in bullshit until you actually believe it.
Exactly, yeah. And so like when you do that, Kyle, it opens the door for you to be duped by more things. Matt, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, Kyle, you're a part of some religion right now, or some religion in the past, right?
I subscribe to Christianity.
Sure. But so if you're a Christian, then you look at all the other religions as a con, right?
I have dabbled in all of them, and then it seemed to always lead me back.
But okay.
We get what you mean.
Yeah. Taking it in the spirit that it was rendered. But you found one, and you looked at the other ones as more con than pro, right?
I see more pro in Christianity, how it's not what we can do, it's what he did.
It's so weird that I'm trying to ask the easiest fucking question that really drills to the heart of this, and you are avoiding it. When you decided that Christianity was more pro, doesn't that mean you decided all the others were more con than pro?
Yes, sir. Yes. I apologize.
All we're doing is saying we agree with you, Kyle. We agree with you on all of them except for yours. And for some reason, we're in agreement. I care about what's true, and neither Christianity nor any other religion that I am aware of has done anything to demonstrate its truth. If it were true, I would believe that it was true, even though I may not necessarily be a worshiper of a particular God. I may not be a participant of a particular religion, but if they could demonstrate that it's true, I would be that way. But for the sake of, for example, biblical Christianity, the Bible is an absolute train wreck of immorality, confusion, anti-science, sexist, racist, garbage. And so if the Bible is what people are basing a religion on, I have lots of reasons to oppose it. But the biggest one, which I said at the beginning, is it hasn't demonstrated that it's true.
I can try and give one example of how it would be more of a pro than a con.
No, and you're not paying attention, Kyle. I don't look at religions. I don't look at religions and say, What are the pros? What are the cons? Let me pick the one that's more pro than con. I don't give a fuck which one's more pro than con. I care which one is true. So
now
listing off why you think one religion is better than another does absolutely nothing to demonstrate why it's true.
But
that is a good point. Is that
you had just given me a reason why it was more of a con, though.
Well, I think what Matt's trying to allude to here, what Matt's trying to get across, is that like all religions have sufficient cons. The concept of religion on its own has sufficient cons to not buy into it in the first place. So it's not which one is best. It's that all of them are harmful and you don't need any of them. So why do it? It's like saying like, I had to pick which hard drug to start to. I was going to say drugs, but yeah, exactly. It's like saying, well, at the end of the day,
that's where I was going to go because I did have a meth addiction before.
Yeah, and so like it's like saying, well, you could do meth or you could do heroin. I guess, if I weigh it, I guess meth's a little better because it doesn't have. You could just do neither. It'd be better to do neither. Neither is best. And so like with religions, like you're sitting here saying, well, if I believe Christianity, there's a little bit of benefit and there's not as many negatives. Why have any of it? Why not just say there's no reason to believe in any of this stuff? None of it has met its burden of proof. None of it has given me the same reason to believe in it that I would believe in absolutely anything else ever. And so I'm not going to waste my time and my energy believing in something that doesn't make any sense, worshiping a God that isn't worth worshiping even if he's real. I'm instead just going to enjoy my life and be a happy person and try to make the best out of the time that I have on this planet.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I also, by the way, I saw the donation ticker went up $10, so I now look like a Fraggle for the rest of this call. I hope you're into that, Kyle.
I'm all for it. I don't know. I just really wanted to call because, Matt, I watch you a lot, and then I watch R and Raw a lot. And R and Raw actually, here recently, I had heard him talking about, I think it's in Hosea, where they rebelled against God, so he ordered that pregnant women be ripped open, and I'm like, oh fuck, what the fuck am I subscribed to? So then it just came to me that is why Jesus came to save us from that. So it's like, okay, godly feared back into it, just because I can't help what I believe. Unfortunately, it just makes sense to me. It just makes sense to me, man. It's just so simple and easy.
I agree that you can't help with what you believe, and I also agree that it is a lot easier just to think the thing. But like, just have you heard I think Matt's made this analogy before, but like it's like a mafia boss where somebody goes in, they want to say you have to pay protection money, you have to pay me to protect you from what I'm gonna do to you if you don't pay me to protect you. If you don't pay me the protection money, I'm gonna come in here and smash up your store. So pay me to protect you from me. And that's exactly what you're offering here is like, this God is so horrific. He's ordering genocide. He's ordering women be cut open and babies ripped out of their stomachs. He's ordering like all these terrible things. He's going to send you to hell to burn for all eternity unless you worship him and pay him the prayers. And then he'll protect you from what he's going to do to you if you don't do that. Like, does that not just sound like racketeering?
I have a question for Matt on something I had heard from a previous podcast that actually involves his mother.
I'd like you to answer my question first.
Hold off, Kyle. You need to answer Forrest's question.
Okay.
I bet you don't know what it was.
Just summarize. I smoke weed, so I did forget.
Me too, but not yet today. I'm gonna be a stoned ape in a couple hours when we're done with this.
Nice. I was asking, like, isn't God like a mafia boss saying you need to pay me to protect you from what I'm going to do if you don't pay me to protect you? He's saying, believe in me or I'm going to punish you. But if you believe in me and I'll forgive you and I'll spare you the punishment that I'm going to give you.
It sounds brutal, yes.
Does it sound wrong? Does it sound like not what you believe?
I'm on the winning team, if you will. So, I mean, I have nothing to worry about.
Unless Islam is true. or unless Hinduism is true, or unless any of the other countless religions are true, there's over 3,000 denominations of Christianity alone. So even if you're a Christian, there's 2,999 other versions of Christianity, which you're not on the winning team of if one of those is true.
But wouldn't you guys agree that hell was later added to the Bible anyways?
Yeah.
What? Wow.
The version of hell that we talk about now.
It's like you skipped past everything substantive and went to something else. So I'm going to let you ask me about my mother. But before I do, I'm going to ask you this question and see if I get an answer. Because you said it just makes sense to me. Well, if something makes sense to me, that means that the best logical assessment of the best available evidence is consistent with the model. And if something makes sense to me, I can explain it. So you picked a version of Christianity. What is your soteriology and how did you determine that it's correct? What must you do to be saved and how do you know you're right?
I can only reference the Bible and I don't think you want that.
No, here's the problem. As Forrest was just mentioning, there are 1,000 denominations of Christianity. They're all built on the Bible. You've made a decision about one that makes sense and what you must do to be saved. How do you know you're right?
I don't know.
Cool. Okay. Then how on earth can you say it makes sense to you if you don't know you're right?
Because I grew up without a father and I found a father in Christianity. I found love. I've always been looking for that. I try to find love in everybody.
I have questions.
And that in God as I perceive it.
I have questions. Kyle, do you have children?
Yeah, I do not.
Okay. You said you found love in Christianity. Exactly what kind of love that you know of outside of Christianity, exactly what kind of love includes like the threat of hell and like the need for someone to be repentant of sins and things like that, includes the demand for worship and praise? What kind of love do you know of in your life that involves that?
I believe that if you desire and seek a relationship, I feel like you no longer think of the bad, but you only see the good.
I hope that answers. That shouldn't be true. That shouldn't be true. I love my wife implicitly. I love my wife more than I love anything in the whole world. If she started like murdering babies, I probably wouldn't be into her anymore. You know what I mean? If she's going around setting dogs on fire, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? I love her to pieces, but I wouldn't love her if she acted that way. And so for this, you don't have to look past all the bad things. God's offering a lot of bad things, and God's claiming to be perfect while he's offering all these bad things. So why does that count as love?
If your whole definition of perfect is to look past the bad things, then I'm perfect.
Yeah, good point. Now, does having a wrath or an anger make you less perfect?
I don't know. I don't have any clue what perfection is. You're the one here advocating for a perfect being that is so horribly broken, you have to ignore the bad things.
I was always taught in the Christian tradition that wrath is a sin, which means that God is sinful because he's so wrathful. He's also very prideful. At one point he says, "My name is jealousy." So jealousy and pride and wrath are all sins, and God commits them so much that they are like the definition of his character.
Now, we can agree that the Bible was written by fallible men, right?
Oh, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is this is the character that you're saying is real.
When you say you found love, apart from love from other people, have you found any love other than from other people? Because I've never found love from anything other than other people and other animals.
I didn't find love. I found the reflection of love that I can now give to others, if that makes any sense.
It makes me want to puke, actually. Yeah. Because you talked about you found love, but now when we finally try to get down to brass tacks, you're like, well, I found the reflection of love. It's absolute garbage sophistry. And this is all from, you've decided on a particular version of Christianity. You have no way of knowing by your own admission if you're correct or not, and yet somehow you seem to have picked one. You say that it makes sense to you, but it doesn't make sense enough for you to explain it. You say that it's about love, but it's not love from anything other than other people. It's just a reflection of love. Every time we get you to the point where there's going to be, you're going to have to defend something substantive, it vanishes in a puff of smoke and sophistry and metaphor. Just like your God.
I have a different line
your
of
God vanishes in a puff of sophistry and metaphor.
Well, yeah,
let me try asking you a thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were waiting to speak.
You're okay. I was trying to think of how to word it.
Yeah, if you have something to respond to that, I'm okay with it. But I have one other, like, just kind of like a short line of questioning to see if I can kind of get to the heart of the issue. And if not, then I just can't.
By the way, we're still going to let you ask me the question about my mom. We just want to get through this stuff.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm glad you remember. Yeah. Kyle, do you believe in a hell? Do you think that there is such a thing as hell?
I believe that hell is not like it pictures in the Bible, but I do believe that it is like Cliff Kennedy says, it's separation from God.
Okay, sure enough. And I guess the question is there suffering there, or is it just that you're not around God anymore and you shouldn't want that?
I would say that's one of the mysteries that nobody knows.
Okay. Is heaven preferable, and if so, why?
Preferable on how you get in?
No, preferable in like being there.
Man, I'd like to think so.
Okay, why? Why would it be better to go to heaven than hell?
Because if God is everything that the Bible says he is, why would you not want that? If there is,
because he's a fucking monster in the Bible that flooded the entire world except for 8 people.
Yeah,
because he's a monster that killed the firstborn in Egypt. Because he's a fucking monster at every turn. Yeah. What do you mean? Why would I not want to be a part of that?
That's precisely what I wanted to get. Yeah, that this God is an asshole, and if he is real and he is what the Bible says, I wouldn't want anything to do with him. So wouldn't I want to go to hell then?
Well, if you wanna look at it like that, or if you just man, that's a good question. I'm not gonna act like I know it all. That's a good question.
So what about you? I mean, I think we talked about the Bible last time you called in. I'm pretty sure I brought up, the plagues in Egypt. I think I went on a whole rant about that with you, if I remember right.
I went and read that.
Yeah.
But didn't they eventually, in the story, didn't he eventually deliver them out of slavery?
Yes, and then he put them back into slavery several times. So he
made rules. And he made rules to allow people to enslave the heathen that surround them forever.
Now,
so God, he did free the Israelites from slavery. Excuse me, I just want to be sure. I just want to be clear about it. God did free the Israelites from slavery after he tortured the hell out of the Egyptians and killed a bunch of babies and violated the Pharaoh's free will. And then he delivered the Jews back into slavery several times throughout the book of Judges. And also he gave explicit instructions on how to keep slaves for other people, like how to keep more slaves, or how to make the Israelites also become slave owners. So the problem for God was never slavery. He never said slavery is bad. He actually explained how to do slavery the way that he likes. The problem was his special people were slaves. Yes. He doesn't want them being slaves, but he's cool with anybody else being taken and kept as a slave and beaten as a slave. So the God of the Bible in that whole story endorses slavery, explains how to do slavery, and also get some people out of slavery in the stupidest and most hideous way possible. Matt, you had something to say.
Let's pause, because it's 2-on-1 against Kyle, and there's a lot here.
That's true.
And a lot to think about. And Kyle's been generally honest, even if he's worshiping a monster and claiming to things that he can't back up. But Kyle, you wanted to ask me a specific question, and I said you could, so I want to make sure we do that before we move on.
Okay. You had said that your mom had mentioned that she had seen was it a demonic, a demon or an angel or
many
something?
Times. Many times.
And you said that you didn't necessarily want to say that she was lying.
I'm happy to believe that my mom experienced something. I'm just not happy that her description and understanding of what she experienced is correct.
Okay. So you're just skeptical on it. I got you.
I'm skeptical on everything, but
right.
I also know my mom, and I find it absolutely beyond stupid, preposterous that can you understand a model where there's a God who creates his own enemy, knowing everything that's going to happen, and then lets his enemy fuck with his believers, fuck with his devout, right down to Job, and let little demons appear to torment my mom while doing absolutely nothing about it? What kind of God permits that? And it's absurd. What it is, most probably, is just human delusion. There is no reason to think there's anything more to any religious supernatural claim than individual human failings of reason, emotion, and delusion. That's it.
Now, is that one of the main reasons you fell away from religion?
No. I was studying, I thought God was punishing me for not becoming a preacher. And so I set out and spent 1.5 years in sincere and devout study and prayer to do what I thought God wanted me to do. And I found that not only did my former beliefs not have good reasons, but that apparently nobody else's did either. That's how I found my way out. There was no problem with me in Christianity. My only goal was, I'm going to be the best representative of Christ I can be.
For sure.
Which is probably one of the reasons I get really irritated at these garbage thinking buffoons who call in, because they're like, oh, they're all smug and let me dismiss this atheist. Motherfucker, I was a better Christian than you then. I'm probably a better Christian than you now, and I definitely know more about it than you do. So not you, Kyle. I'm not, this is not directed at you. This is my ire at all these people who call in, oh, I've got the truth. I've got the truth. I've got the truth. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You're a dipshit. You just like I was. Because you were lied to, you were manipulated, you were indoctrinated, and you were surrounded by a whole bunch of other people who were lied to, manipulated, and indoctrinated. And when you are surrounded by all of those people, that says a reinforcement of all those delusions. So of course it feels real, and of course you feel love. And of course when you're standing there in church and you're singing praise hymns, you get goosebumps, because that's what fucking music does. Not what God does, that's what music does.
I like that perspective.
Yeah. Okay. Does that answer your question for Matt? Because I have one more thing for you, Kyle, and then we'll probably start moving on. I just want to make sure you were done with your questions for Matt on that, because I didn't want you to feel like you were stifled on that.
No, yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. So a minute ago, Matt wanted to make sure you got that question in, and I really appreciate that. I now want to also ask, just to follow up to what I was talking about. We talked about the Pharaoh, and we talked about the slavery and all those things. You know what we're talking about, right? I don't know if you've read in Exodus 20-something, 21, I believe, where God gives explicit instructions on how to beat your slaves and how long you can keep them as property and pass them on to your children. Have you read that? Are you familiar with that?
I have heard it, yes.
Yeah, and he gives different instructions. A lot of apologists. Sorry.
A lot of the Christians I have around me, if I ask questions, they immediately get pissed off. Oh, you're questioning your faith. Oh, your faith ain't strong enough. Yeah. You ain't a true believer. All this other nonsense that I would rather come to an atheist that is at least a free thinker. That's
what I like to call an everlasting thought stopper. You are questioning your faith, and God doesn't like that. So stop thinking so hard. Don't use the brain that God gave you. Here the thing is, it's God gives there's specific instructions in Exodus for Hebrew slaves and for non-Hebrew slaves. If they're a Hebrew slave, then you set them free after 7 years, and it's mainly just to pay off a debt. Except there's a special exception to that rule. If they come in single, then you can give them a wife and children, and their wife and children stay your slaves forever, and they can go free unless they want to keep their wife and kids, in which case they go through this weird little ritual, and then they're your slave forever, and everybody else is slave forever and gets passed down like property to your children, and there's rules about how to beat them properly and all this shit. We can agree, I hope. Like, I'm going to ask you this, and I want you to answer sincerely. Can we agree that that's fucking evil, Kyle?
That is fucked. That is fucked up. And I am so glad that we do not live in biblical times like that, to where I would curse at my mom and she could fucking stone me. That would be brutal.
Yes, exactly. And so, like, these are the rules of the God of the Bible: is stoning children, keeping slaves, stoning women to death. If you rape a virgin, you can pay her dad $40 and then she's your property, and like all this shit. Like there's a bunch of really fucked up stuff in the Bible in terms of rules that God himself passed down and Jesus never corrected. In the New Testament, Jesus says, I come not to change the law, but to fulfill it. And I am not, no dot or tittle of the law shall change until all things have come to pass. And so, like, the new covenant doesn't... Yes, I've read it, dude. And also the 10 Commandments are in the Old Testament, all 3 versions of them. There's 3 different times God gives the 10 Commandments, and they're different every time, and they're all in the Old Testament. So unless that gets thrown out, the Old Testament's still law. All I'm saying is, like, if we agree that that's all fucked up, and we agree that this God has some pretty shitty ideas, I want to return to what you were saying a minute ago about heaven and stuff. Why would you worship something like that? Why would you want to spend eternity with something like that? If your God is real, he's not good. So why do you like him?
Man, because it's just, I really don't have a good answer back for that on the spot.
That's okay. It's something to think about. And I'll tell you,
it's a good thing to think about, because we've been going at this for like 30 minutes already, Kyle, and I got some other callers I need to get to as well. So there's a lot to think about.
Yeah, so I hope you do think about it. And if you bring it up to your Christian friends and they try to argue the Bible with you, just remind them that, like, yeah, dude, if they try to argue the Bible with you, here's another fun thing to think about. Over 24,000 people starve to death every single day, including over 10,000 children. 10,000 babies, children starve to death every single day in this world. God's in charge, and he's okay with that. That's part of the plan. And most of those people aren't Christian, so they're going to hell. They were born, they starve to death, and they go to hell. And that's moral? That's the system that you're worshiping? So I hope you do think about these things, Kyle, and I hope you call us back sometime, especially if I'm on, because I'd love to talk to you. I think you're really honest about what you believe, and I'd love to help just, like, pick at it some more. And maybe we'll never agree, but I think we're having a really good conversation. I think the people listening are benefiting from our conversation as well.
I appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate what you guys do.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you so much, Kyle. That's very kind of you.
See you guys. Hey,
take care.
Have a good night.
What a nice dude. Kyle's awesome.
I mean,
that was my one.
Maybe don't take a bong rip right. What'd you say?
I said that was my one phone call that I wore the wig for, and now look at my fucking hair.
Yeah. No, I don't mind talking to Kyle. Just maybe don't take a bong rip right before you call in.
Did he say that he did that?
Kind of stay on target. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
But
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I'm gonna
you know what? I've had worse callers that were sober.
Fair.
Hey, if you liked this video, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't
That's
like
what
it,
you would say.
subscribe.
Okay.
You didn't even give me a chance.
There was such a long pause.
What are you on speed or something? I barely had a chance.
Let's try again. Hey, I hope you liked. Hey, I hope you. Fuck. Hey there. I hope you liked that clip. Hey, I hope you liked that clipper just now, the one that you just watched with your eyes. If you did like it, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't like it, tell Jimmy to go fuck himself.
Hey, I hope you liked that clip right now. If you did like it, why don't you hit that like button?
And if you didn't like it, go ahead and subscribe anyway.